Hello and welcome. This is Notibot ENG. Tonight, we bring you a recap of the latest developments in the global conflict. Tensions in the Middle East continue to escalate, with the U.S. military taking a bold move by crossing the Strait of Hormuz for the first time since the Iran war began. We'll also hear from a former general urging President Trump to reach out to China. Meanwhile, in Ukraine, the conflict with Russia shows no signs of abating. Our top stories tonight include the latest on the Iran war, Ukraine-Russia clashes, and more. For the first time since the Iran-US conflict escalated, U.S. naval vessels have navigated the Strait of Hormuz, a move of significant geopolitical note. The U.S. Navy has made a significant move, with multiple ships crossing the Strait of Hormuz for the first time since the start of the U.S.-Israeli war with Iran. According to Axios reporter Barak Ravid, a U.S. official confirmed the development, stating that the move was not coordinated with Iran. This marks a crucial moment in the escalating conflict, as Pakistan is also engaged in negotiations to bring an end to the extensive Middle East armed conflict. The war between the U.S. and Iran has already had severe consequences, including nearly 3,000 Iranian casualties and at least 13 U.S. servicemen killed. The conflict has disrupted global energy flows through the Strait of Hormuz, a key artery for crude and LNG trade. This has resulted in a global energy shock, highlighting the critical nature of the situation. The recent U.S.-Iran ceasefire, brokered by Pakistan, has been a significant development, but the latest move by the U.S. Navy signals that the conflict is far from over. The fact that the U.S. ships crossed the strait without coordination with Iran raises questions about the intentions of the U.S. military and the potential for further escalation. As the situation continues to unfold, it remains to be seen how this move will impact the ongoing negotiations in Pakistan and the wider Middle East. The international community is watching closely as the consequences of this conflict continue to reverberate around the world. As tensions escalate over Iran and the Strait of Hormuz, a former U.S. general now calls on President Trump to take a bold diplomatic move. A retired U.S. Army general has called on President Trump to take action against Iran's control over the Strait of Hormuz. Former General Jack Keane made this request during a recent radio interview. Keane stated that the U.S. should stop Iran's oil-carrying ships from reaching their destinations in countries like China in order to break Tehran's grip on the region. The Strait of Hormuz is a strategic waterway that connects the Persian Gulf to the Gulf of Oman and the open sea. It's a critical route for international oil trade, with over 20% of the world's oil passing through it. Iran has long been concerned about the security of the strait, given its own history of conflict with neighboring countries. General Keane's comments come as tensions between the U.S. and Iran remain high. In 2019, a U.S. military drone was shot down by an Iranian surface-to-air missile, leading to a retaliatory attack on Iranian military bases in Iraq. The incident marked a significant escalation in the conflict between the two nations. Keane believes that the U.S. must take a stronger stance against Iranian aggression in order to protect its interests and those of its allies. The situation in the Strait of Hormuz matters for several reasons. It could have far-reaching consequences for the global economy, particularly if oil supplies are disrupted. Additionally, the region is home to several countries with significant military and economic interests, making any instability there a concern for many nations. As the diplomatic stalemate persists, Iran's stance on nuclear talks is taking a back seat, leaving the United States to ponder its next move. Iran is refusing to rush into renewed talks with the U.S., with the country's representatives stating that the ball is now in America's court. According to a report by Tasnim news agency, which cited an informed source, Iran has presented its proposals during previous negotiations, but is waiting for a response from the U.S. The Iranian government has accused Washington of underestimating the situation and warned that the tensions in the Strait of Hormuz will not ease unless the U.S. agrees to a reasonable deal. The situation in the Strait of Hormuz remains a major point of contention between Iran and the U.S. The region is home to a significant portion of the world's oil supply, and any disruption to trade through the strait could have far-reaching consequences for the global economy. The U.S. has been imposing sanctions on Iran in response to its nuclear program, while Iran has responded by increasing its uranium enrichment levels. The talks between Iran and the U.S. have been on and off since 2013, with the two countries struggling to find common ground. Diplomatic efforts have continued despite the tensions, with the European Union and other international players calling for restraint. The situation remains highly sensitive, with the potential for miscalculation or escalation at any moment. As the situation stands, it appears that Iran is waiting for the US to make the next move, with the outcome hanging in the balance. A significant escalation in tensions between the US and Iran has seen warships from the US Navy crossing the Strait of Hormuz for the first time. A US official has confirmed that several US Navy ships crossed the Strait of Hormuz on Saturday, marking the first time warships have traversed the waterway since the conflict between the US and Iran began. The operation was not coordinated with Iranian authorities, which has raised concerns among observers. The move is seen as a demonstration of the U.S. commitment to freedom of navigation through international waters, a principle that has been at the center of the conflict. According to sources, the operation aimed to increase confidence among commercial ships to traverse the strait, which is a crucial waterway for global oil supplies. The Strait of Hormuz has been a focal point of tensions between the U.S. and Iran since the U.S. withdrew from the Iran nuclear deal in 2018. The conflict escalated in January when a U.S. drone was shot down by an Iranian surface-to-air missile, leading to the U.S. retaliating with airstrikes on Iranian military targets. The operation by U.S. warships comes as peace talks between the two sides kicked off in Pakistan on Saturday. The talks, which are being mediated by China and Russia, aim to ease tensions and find a way to revive the stalled nuclear deal. Despite the ongoing conflict, the U.S. has signaled its willingness to engage in diplomacy, with President Joe Biden holding phone calls with Iranian leaders in recent weeks. The future of the peace talks remains uncertain, but the U.S. operation in the Strait of Hormuz is seen as a significant development in the ongoing crisis. For the latest update on the ongoing standoff between Iran and the U.S. over the Strait of Hormuz, we go straight to our correspondent in Tehran. According to Middle East Eye, the current situation in the Strait of Hormuz remains unchanged, with Iran refusing to budge unless the U.S. accepts a reasonable deal. This comes after U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance stated that Washington presented its final and best offer during talks with Iran, which left without an agreement. The negotiations between the U.S. and Iran are centered around several key issues, including Iran's claim to control the Strait of Hormuz and its refusal to give up its stockpile of enriched uranium. The U.S. has been seeking to curb Iran's nuclear program, while Iran insists that its nuclear activities are for peaceful purposes. The stalemate in talks highlights the deep-seated mistrust between the two nations. Iran's Tasnim news agency cited a source close to the Iranian delegation as saying that Tehran has no plans to hold another round of negotiations with the U.S. This statement suggests that Iran is unwilling to compromise on its core demands, which are seen as non-negotiable by Washington. The situation in the Strait of Hormuz matters significantly, as it is a crucial waterway for global oil supplies. A disruption to shipping in the region could have far-reaching consequences for the global economy. The U.S. has been seeking to maintain a military presence in the region to ensure the free flow of oil, while Iran has long accused the U.S. of attempting to strangle its economy through sanctions. The ongoing standoff between the U.S. and Iran raises concerns about the stability of the region and the potential for miscalculation. As the situation remains unresolved, the international community is holding its breath, waiting to see how the situation will unfold. As tensions continue to escalate, Ukraine is accusing Russia of brazenly violating the fragile Easter ceasefire, with devastating consequences on the battlefield. Ukraine-Russia Easter ceasefire violations. A 32-hour ceasefire agreed upon by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and Russian President Vladimir Putin over Orthodox Easter has been repeatedly breached by Russian forces. According to the Ukrainian General Staff, Russia has violated the ceasefire 469 times since the truce came into effect. The Ukrainian military has reported 275 drone strikes by Russian forces, with one ambulance being struck in Sumy Oblast, injuring 3 paramedics. Russian officials have accused Ukrainian forces of launching drone strikes, which they claim have injured 5 people. However, Zelensky has urged Putin to continue the ceasefire agreement, saying, if Russia once again chooses war instead of peace, it will show the world, and particularly the United States, who truly wants what. The Easter ceasefire is the latest attempt at a temporary truce between the two sides, which has been marked by a series of violent clashes in recent months. The truce is set to end at midnight Moscow time, unless both sides agree to extend it. The ceasefire violations highlight the ongoing tensions between Ukraine and Russia, which have been locked in a conflict since 2014. The conflict has resulted in thousands of deaths and widespread destruction, with many fearing a broader escalation of the conflict. The international community has welcomed the Easter ceasefire, with the United States and other Western countries calling for a peaceful resolution to the conflict. However, the repeated breaching of the ceasefire by Russian forces raises concerns that the truce may not last beyond its expiration date. That's all for today's news recap. Thank you for joining us. If you'd like to stay up to date on the latest developments, be sure to subscribe to our channel. We'll keep you informed with the latest news from around the world. We'll see you in the next video.